the ruling Meghan's team apparently never found. Meghan Markle just handed her critics the one thing they've been waiting 6 years for. Not an opinion. Not a rumor. From a friend of a palace footman. Not a leaked source whispering to a tabloid over lunch. A documented, government ruling. One that she apparently doesn't know exists or is hoping you don't. Here's what happened. Meghan's team went to the press this week furious. Absolutely furious because Pippa Middleton's husband, James Matthews, is fighting to keep a security gate at his Berkshire estate. And Meghan's anonymous source told Star magazine with a completely straight face that nobody is raising a fuss about it, that the palace is letting the Middletons write their own rule book, that there's one set of rules for Harry and another set for everyone else. That's the argument. That's the case Meghan is making.
Even the article doesn't, while Harry's request is obviously next level in comparison to a security gate, the source says the situation has hit a nerve for him and Meghan. It's always been one set of rules for Harry and another set for everyone else.
And it's factually wrong, because what Meghan's team either doesn't know or is quietly praying you won't go looking for is that a government planning inspector sat down in May 2026, examined James Matthews' security argument and ruled in writing that Pippa and James cannot rely on privacy and security concerns to justify closing a footpath. The Why Tom Bower's second book is the one that matters. Government rejected their security argument on the record through an official process the same way it rejected Harry's. So there's no double standard. The system ruled the same way for both of them. And by running to the press screaming about an injustice that the public record proves doesn't exist, Meghan didn't expose the palace. She exposed herself. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand something no other channel has connected yet. Why this specific miscalculation at this specific moment with Tom Bower's new book already in circulation and the Netflix numbers doing what they're doing might be the single most damaging thing Meghan has ever done to her own story. Because this isn't just embarrassing. There's a financial and legal context sitting underneath all of this that makes the timing genuinely catastrophic. We're going to get there. Stay with me. Look, people have been criticizing Meghan for 6 years. Royal commentators, former palace staff, journalists of every political stripe. It's a crowded room and Meghan's team has always had a playbook for it. Dismiss the source. Call it racist. Label it obsession. Move on. That playbook is running out of pages. Tom Bower has just published his second book on the Sussexes' betrayal, power, deceit, and the fight for the future of the royal family. Whether she's really happy or miserable, whether she realizes what an awful fate awaits her in the years to come when she hasn't got any appeal at all and people on the whole are bored to death with her and her jam and her silly speeches and ridiculous shots on Instagram and suddenly becomes an irritating irrelevant. And the speed and fury of the response from Meghan's camp tells you everything you need to know about how rattled they are. Their spokesperson called it deranged conspiracy and melodrama, said Bower has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation, that people seeking deranged conspiracy know exactly where to find him. I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a rebuttal. It isn't. That's a panic response dressed up as contempt. Here's who Tom Bower actually is. A 27-year BBC veteran, a panorama reporter, a man who's written exos of Robert Maxwell, Mohammed Alft, Tony Blair, Boris. The double standard that doesn't exist in the public record. Johnson, Gordon Brown, and Richard Branson. And I don't mean he wrote some cheeky profile pieces. Richard Branson, one of the most powerful businessmen on the planet, actually sued Bower for defamation, took him to court and lost. Branson later said publicly he regretted bringing the case. Bower's book on Geoffrey Robinson produced evidence so specific that Robinson was suspended from Parliament. Think about that. Bower doesn't build his cases on anonymous whispers. He uses named sources, people willing to attach their professional reputations to what they're saying. That's why his books survive legal scrutiny. That's why his subjects hate him with such intensity. And that's why his reappearance in this story right now at the exact moment Meghan's PR machine is actively feeding tabloids a narrative the public record already contradicts. That's what investigators would call compounding exposure. One story survivable, two simultaneous stories working against each other. That's a credibility crisis. And here's the thing about credibility crisis. They don't announce themselves with a fanfare. They build quietly, one provable contradiction at a time until the weight of the documented record collapses the whole structure. We have 5 of those contradictions. Let's go through them. Revelation 1. The double standard that isn't one. Back to the core complaint because I want to be fair to Meghan's argument before I take it apart. Her source told Star magazine direct quote, "No one is raising a fuss about them taking advantage, them being Pippa and James." The argument being that the palace is passively permitting Pippa's security setup while it spent years fighting Harry's tooth and nail. On the surface, it sounds compelling. It's designed to sound compelling buzz about them taking advantage. They're trying to get a gate they have already installed to stay. That's nowhere near the level of what Harry you were asking for. So if this is real, which again it may not be to be fair, this is ludicrous. The sequence of events Harry doesn't want in the same paragraph. Give Meghan's PR team that much. They know how to write a grievance. But here's the documented record. In May 2026, a government planning inspector examined the Barton Court dispute and stated clearly that questions of privacy and security were outside the scope of the inquiry and then ruled in writing that Pippa and James cannot use privacy and security concerns to justify closing a footpath. The government shot down their security argument, same as Harry's. Now set that next to Harry's case. May 2025, the Court of Appeal. 3 senior judges unanimous Justice Jeffrey Voss delivered a 21-page judgment, acknowledged Harry felt badly treated, said his lawyers made powerful and moving arguments, and then dismissed the case anyway. 2 different processes, 2 different years, same outcome. The double standard Meghan's selling to the press does not exist in the public record, and she's selling it, while the ruling that disproves her is sitting in a planning inspector's report that apparently nobody on her team bothered to read. Was it incompetence or was it a calculated bet that you wouldn't go looking? I'll let you decide that at the end, but keep the question in your head. That's a major credibility problem, but it's not the biggest one. Because the double standard argument only works if the underlying premise is true, that Harry was singled out, treated uniquely and unfairly without cause. And that premise has a very specific problem, a sequence of events. Problem. That's Revelation 2. Revelation 2. The sequence they hope you forget. Oprah Winfrey interview, March 7, 2021. Harry looked into the camera and said, and I'm quoting directly, "I never thought that I would have my security removed." That sentence became the emotional cornerstone of the Sussex narrative for years. The idea that the palace punished them for leaving, that they were blindsided, that security was wielded as a weapon against a young family just trying to find their freedom. Now, I want you to look at the actual sequence of events. January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced they're stepping back from royal duties and intend to become financially independent. Their words, not mine, financially independent. 8 months later, the number nobody in the press put side by side. September 2020, the Netflix deal is announced. Worth, per 2 confirmed Variety sources, roughly $60 million. Before Netflix, the couple had held meetings with Disney, Apple, and NBC Universal. The New York Times reported they were seeking a deal in excess of £75 million, multiple streaming giants, active negotiations simultaneously. Wait, let that land. They announced financial independence in January. They were in simultaneous negotiations with multiple global streaming companies. They signed a $60 million deal in September. And then in March 2021, 16 months after the exit, entirely on your royal story. The ruling Meghan's team apparently never found. Meghan Markle just handed her critics the one thing they've been waiting 6 years for. Not an opinion. Not a rumor. From a friend of a palace footman. Not a leaked source whispering to a tabloid over lunch. A documented, government ruling. One that she apparently doesn't know exists or is hoping you don't. Here's what happened. Meghan's team went to the press this week furious. Absolutely furious because Pippa Middleton's husband, James Matthews, is fighting to keep a security gate at his Berkshire estate. And Meghan's anonymous source told Star magazine with a completely straight face that nobody is raising a fuss about it, that the palace is letting the Middletons write their own rule book, that there's one set of rules for Harry and another set for everyone else. That's the argument. That's the case Meghan is making.
Even the article doesn't, while Harry's request is obviously next level in comparison to a security gate, the source says the situation has hit a nerve for him and Meghan. It's always been one set of rules for Harry and another set for everyone else.
And it's factually wrong, because